This is a More Than Just Podcast production.
Welcome to Spotcast Season 9, Episode 12. My name is Tim Mitra, and I am in Toronto, Ontario, and I'm joined by Jaime Jr. in Seattle, Washington.
How's it going?
Jonathan is missing in action. I'm not sure where he's work-related, I'm sure, absence, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, we don't really fact-check from last week. I don't recall catching any mistakes from us, in that marathon episode we did. So we'll just jump into the headlines. Jaime's got a bunch, and I might have one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, yours that you're not sure about might make sense with the second link. But let's start out with Game of Thrones has a movie that is in production or being worked on, and it now has a working title. So just to be really clear, it's not necessarily the final title. So don't get mad at us. Don't shake your fist if like a year and a half from now they come out with a teaser and they're like, hey, it's not that name. But the current working name is Game of Thrones: Aegon's Quest. So this is about Aegon Targaryen the First. The one who,
this is Egg from the other show we're watching?
No, because he is... See, this is why we need Jonathan. He is later Aegon. This is the first one, the Conqueror.
Oh, Aegon the First? Okay.
Yeah, the one who came over with, man, see, this is where I'm unclear. I don't remember if he came over with his family from Valyria, or if he's just descended from the people who moved from Valyria, brought dragons, and then survived because they didn't deal with the doom of Valyria that destroyed everybody.
Right.
No facts to check there. Surely not.
Yeah, and so when is that supposed to come out?
This is part of the slate. You know how, these various producers will come out with like, hey, here's our roadmap. This is in the 2027 and beyond. So I don't think it has an exact date yet. You're just getting people hyped up.
And is it a show? Oh, it's a movie. Okay.
Yeah, it's a movie. Right.
Ooh, theatrical release.
Yeah, and it might make sense because it's the sort of thing where if they can make a relatively self-contained story, I'm not sure how much is written about the first Aegon, and apparently they decided not to turn it into a series, even a limited series. So it must be fairly self-contained. I think it's something that people can go watch and say, oh yeah, that's cool. And get something out of it without necessarily having to have seen Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, and so on and so forth.
Cool. Right. Yeah. And Jonathan, just noticed on the sidebar here that Jonathan will be pleased to hear that Top Gun 3 is officially in the works.
There you go. Is it 40 years from now? Are they going to do it?
Yeah, he'll come back in an urn or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something here about a new trailer for Disclosure Day, but I don't know, is that new? Oh, Variety keeps banging me because I have run ad blockers on my browser, right? So, and then they show me the ads anyway, so I don't get it. Anyway, all right, cool. What else you got?
Next one is a bummer. So, title here from Deadline.com: Marvel undergoes layoffs amid company-wide Disney cuts. So it was about 8% of their workforce, which represented like 1,000 people, especially folks in a variety of departments. But the cuts in the visual development area, according to this article, are said to be significant. So that's not great. It's not good for people. It's not good for the economy. We've already talked on this show about the challenges of heavily overworked visual effects people. We've talked about the encroaching, drum beats of generative AI.
Yeah, which leads us to the sort of the story I wasn't sure about, and that is, I saw this just before we started recording, an Avengers Doomsday trailer. And I think that's the name of the movie that's coming out, right?
Right, that is the next one.
Yeah, this claims to be the first 3 minutes of Doctor Doom, or it says Doctor Doom versus Council of Clangs. And it looks, it looks really good, but then it looks a lot of AI, right? So, and I don't know why Robert Downey Jr. would have to remove his mask every time he had to talk, but I guess I couldn't figure out how to do his voice with mask on or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's pretty fascinating. I watched this. It's like a easy breezy, short 3 minutes, and the AI that they use to generate this is really good. It's not perfect, as you pointed out. There's like just a little bit of that AI jank that you can tell if you're looking there. But It does look shockingly good, which I'm sure is a factor for the layoffs we just talked about. And in terms of sort of the meta and the story, kudos to the person who put this together, because it actually feels like a fairly reasonable way to just sort of like spackle over the fact that the Council of Kangs and multiverse stuff, like, they didn't have a good bridge after the actor got into serious trouble, and they're like, okay, now it's going to be Doctor Doom, and let's bring back Robert Downey Jr., right? Like, this, I think, is a pretty good way to say, yep, here's the change in direction. It's canonical now. Here's how we move on. Very similar to when they recast Rhodey in Iron Man 2 to be Don Cheadle. When there's the, like, yep, I'm here, deal with it. It's kind of like, yep, just accept the fact that this man is a totally different man than the previous movie, right?
Yeah, and here's a quick live update, too. I saw this on LinkedIn today. One of the people I follow, named Justin Ryan, posts a lot of stuff about VR and AR, and he's a Vision Pro user as well. But he posted this story about how it's basically linked to how NVIDIA has sort of solved one of the problems, I guess, with AI, and that is the sort of consistency, like, between one scene and another. Like, that's how I read this post. But that you can actually have a virtual world, and it kind of stays. It doesn't kind of drift off like a lot of AI stuff does.
Yeah,
so it's kind of cool.
That's pretty cool. They what did they put here? Like, the holodeck is nearly real in these LinkedIn posts. It doesn't feel that far off. Just generate endless stuff and not forget it, so it doesn't break the illusion. That's really cool.
Anyway, enough about AI. Let's get on to some fake monsters.
Fake monsters, lovingly handcrafted by real people. This next
in rubber suits, yeah.
This next one is the trailer, the teaser for Godzilla Minus Zero, the sequel to Godzilla Minus One. It's not much. It's pretty much just mood setting. You get to see Godzilla, hear Godzilla, and they do a kind of a cool fake out where, you're looking upwards at the Statue of Liberty, kind of looking at Liberty's armpit. And you see Godzilla from the same angle, and it kind of looks like, oh, Godzilla's going to pass underneath the shoulder. Oh, wait, no, Godzilla's way bigger, way bigger.
So explain to me the minus one, minus zero. Did you watch? I guess you watched the minus one.
I have to admit, I haven't seen minus one.
Do you know what the gist of it is? Like, what's next? Plus
I think it is a soft retelling, reboot of the original 1950s Godzilla. So it takes it back, to its roots of, post-nuclear horror Japan kind of feel. And I forget if that's exactly why they called it minus one, to be like, oh, okay, it's a little bit different. And then, because math is weird, I guess if you go forward, you could go to zero, and they kept it as minus zero, which I guess
that's what I mean. Like, is it going to be like it's going to be zero next time, and then it's going to to be plus one? Or
plus one is what I would guess.
Or are they going to do the Homer Simpson thing and go minus 0.5, or what?
Is it Naked Gun 33 and a third?
Yeah.
After Naked Gun 2.5.
Playing with numbers. Who knows? Yes, I did watch the trailer. It was really interesting. One thing I miss though about these movies is when they have the English dialogue and the mouth action doesn't match up.
Right.
Always charming about that. And I used to watch Ultraman when I was a kid too. I see it's on. I think it's on Prime now, but I'm not afraid to go look at it again because I used to watch it after school. All right, and then how about another movie that I'm not interested in seeing?
It definitely depends on how you come to this, right? So this is Street Fighter, not Street Fighter the movie, which was with, Jean-Claude Van Damme and Raul Julia's final performance ever before he sadly passed away. This is just Street Fighter coming out here in 2026, and it's got some cheese to it, but it looks like the right amount of cheese.
But is it like based on the arcade game? Because I noticed that some of the characters look kind of strange, like they would in an arcade, like the guy with the big white, pompadour and that stuff.
Yeah. So we see Ken, we see Ryu, we see Chun-Li, we see Balrog, we see Bison. It seems like it's a variety of the games mixed together, because you also see Akuma as well. So they definitely threw in a lot here. Kind of fascinating to see. And as people point out in the comments, there's actual street fighting, as in they fight in the streets, which you don't normally see in these kinds of adaptations of video games. So yeah, it's a good year for this stuff, because Mortal Kombat 2 is also coming out. And then if you were hoping for the sequel to Spaceballs to be Spaceballs: The Search for More Money, it turns out at CinemaCon, Mel Brooks said, no, that's not happening. It is Spaceballs: The New One is the official title.
Yeah, there was a clip of him saying, or when are you going to have the new one? When are you going to have the new one? And he says, guess what? We did it. It's the new one. Yeah. And speaking of which, so I was just watching a video just before, because you posted this link, I guess a few minutes ago or whatever. I saw an interview with the cast talking about this, and I only watched half of it, but Rick Moranis is there, Paxton and his son, I've forgotten his son's name. He's in it. Bill Pullman. I said Paxton. I meant Bill Pullman. And the lady that plays the Princess Daphne, and I guess Josh Gad. He's kind of one of the writers, but is he playing Moog? I guess.
Ooh, is he Mog's son, or is he Mog himself? That's a good question, because both Joan Rivers and John Candy have passed away. So.
Right. Yeah, he does. Josh Gad did mention that he was trying to. I guess he got out of the body of that other guy from that show we were watching. I forgot, Mr. Invisible or whatever it was called, Mr. Wonderful.
Wonder Man.
Wonder Man.
Yeah, where he went missing in the like portals kind of guy.
Yeah, well, they found him. So he did say that John Candy inspired him, and kind of thing. So I assume he's going to play a role to reprise that character, right?
Yeah. I mean, this seems like it'll be a lot of fun. I'm very hopeful for it. I'm actually very curious about the merchandise, because this lends itself to a popcorn bucket should say Spaceballs, the popcorn bucket, and that's like just literally all it says, and it's perfectly on brand, right?
Yeah. Well, they were talking about him playing, like Rick Moranis playing with the dolls, and he mentioned that he was kind of playing with it, and Mel Brooks said we should shoot that, and that's kind of how that ended up in the movie. Yeah, I love the scene. My favorite scene in that, of course, is when they're trying to figure out how to get out of this situation. They goes, well, let's watch the VHS, and they pop the tape in and watch the movie, right?
Yeah.
See how it ends.
Such a great send-up of the original Star Wars trilogy. So now they have fertile ground with the prequels, the sequels, and the Rogue Ones and the Darth Mauls and the Mandalorians to play with. So
yeah. Well, apparently Mel Brooks is reprising his role as the president of the world or whatever, and he was
President Screw, I think was literally his name.
President Screw, yeah.
Yogurt was the Yoda stand-in.
All right, well, that brings us, with the short headlines, to the main part of the show, where we're going to talk about things. One Star-related thing, but mostly we usually try to do Star Trek, but there's nothing to talk about this week, since we're skipping the original series for a little bit more. We're going to talk about the shows we talked about last week, which was Daredevil Born Again, Invincible, Star Wars Maul, and The Voice. So we'll dig into The Grand Designs, which is the season 1 episode, or season 2 episode. Is this 2 or 1? Season 1, right?
No, this is season 2.
Season 2? Who wrote this note? Season 2, episode 5, The Grand Design, which was a kind of weird follow-up to last week's episode, where, what's her name now? Vanessa
Fisk.
has...
Not dead. Not dead, as we thought at the end of the episode, last episode.
We thought she was going to bleed out, but apparently they got her to the hospital sort of in time for a little bit of neural surgery kind of thing. And we follow Matt and Bullseye as they're being chased by the task force, and they end up back in the church, and they have a bit. I think they're kind of fighting, but he's trying to help him, right? And he's this is Matt trying to have his redemption arc on the fact that he wanted to kill Bullseye initially, right? Which he admits to him at one point. But yeah, and he kind of, they go through the episode and you think he's going to have to leave him behind, and they get cornered in the church, right? And of course they need to get out of the way so that the priest doesn't, end up in trouble with the task force, right? Yeah. So what do you think about this?
I think it does well. I wish Jonathan was here to add better flavor than I can on the Daredevil character. But the character of Daredevil, Matt Murdock, is just like intensely Catholic. That's a big part of the character. Yeah, and it goes right into the title. It's Daredevil Born Again, right? And this episode spends a lot of time showing Matt in the modern times with like feeling the guilt around, do you save a bad person like Bullseye? And he does sort of abandon him for a bit and then says, oh, okay, I got to go get him, right? Like he just can't let it go. And it's sort of juxtaposed against, we see a flashback to when Matt and Foggy were working at like one of the worst, most abusive, law offices, I guess. Yeah. And they're debating like, hey, do we help this dude who is ostensibly a client, although he's, going to take his chances with a public defender because he doesn't want to go in prison because he rightfully believes he is going to get killed by, I believe, the Kingpin's people, right? And they find exculpatory evidence of like, this on a technicality, right? Like this warrant is incorrect because it has the wrong address. It's slightly wrong. It is mildly wrong. But dotting your I's and crossing your T's matters in the justice system. And this would have caused what they refer to as the fruit of the poison tree, meaning anything that was found after, as a result of this incorrect and therefore invalid warrant means that everything is gone. So even if they like literally just, walked into the apartment and like saw the dude doing the crimes, like not admissible. You weren't allowed to be in that building or that apartment. Why? Because you're not allowed with a search warrant that is invalid and so on and so forth. So seeing how Foggy ends up spending, their money that they had pitched in together to like, hey, one day we're going to have a law firm together. We're going to be better. And Matt's sort of struggling, like, this dude committed so many crimes. Why would we help? And it's like, hey, isn't mercy like a thing that you believe? Like, that's part of your religion, right? Not just the wrath. And so I thought that was all really well done for seeing what Daredevil's going through.
Yeah, in the story, Foggy knew the guy they grew up together, and that's how he knew the address was wrong on the house, right? So, and it was good to see the actor come back and reprise his role too. But yeah, and then it's kind of like, Matt kind of puts two and two together and realizes that the money's missing, and Foggy's obviously gone to give it to this reprobate bad guy, right? So who, like you said, Foggy realizes that they can't turn a blind eye to the fact that the evidence was wrong or the search warrant was incorrect, and therefore the guy shouldn't be convicted because it was an illegal search warrant. Not that would matter in 2026, by the way, but yeah. So that was a good, interesting story. And then in the other story, the other plot was Fisk and Vanessa. He's by her side as she's in ICU, and then they do the brain surgery, and she's in recovery. But meanwhile, she's remembering, or they're remembering how they met, right? And she kind of goes against her boss's orders and puts a painting up that she thinks is much better than the ones that they were going to exhibit. And when she meets Fisk, obviously he's going to come in and buy it, right? Sort of thing. So is the sort of the beginning of how the two of them met. And then ironically, when she recovers from surgery, she says, in kind of a, brain foggy kind of moment, she says, tell me a story. And he goes, well, what do you want to hear? And he goes, tell me the story of how we met, which is, I guess, part of the reason why we were shown the flashback. And unfortunately, spoilers for everybody, she doesn't, she repeats the question, and then, shortly thereafter, in fact, she can't finish the question. She basically passes away. And of course, that's where we thought we were going to go at the end of last week, where, Fisk is going to lose it, right? Like, right. Because now he's lost the love of his life, and, kick him when he's down and all that kind of stuff, right? So, And he'd already given Buddy Buck, is his name Buck Cashman or something like that? Given him orders to go and find Daredevil and Bullseye and bring them back alive, right? Or he tells the Eric Lindros guy from the task force alive. He makes sure he remembers that. And then there's another story. Another B plot is the leaking of where Vanessa is to BB.
Right, Baby Pin is the one. I forget the character's name. I referred to him as Baby Pin because he's trying to be Kingpin, but like
Tony Soprano's son, right? Or not son, but the actor. He kind of spills the beans to. I don't know if BB played him to get him to tell her the story about the fact she was in critical condition, not dead. And obviously what hospital she was in, because then of course all the media kind of leaked on that, and so Buck Cashman takes Junior Soprano or Baby Pin for a drive to I forget the name of the place in New York. It's not
Albany. It's upstate.
Albany, yeah, it's the capital of New York, right? And so he's driving him to Albany, and of course, so now Baby Kingpin is thinking. I'm going to click on this thing and get his name, but he's thinking that he's dead, right? Because he's like Michael Gandolfini is his name. He plays Daniel Blake, but he thinks he's dead, and Buck goes and gets a battery, a wireless chop saw, and a shovel at a hardware store, and they drive into the middle of the woods, and it's kind of like. He even does. It's funny because ironically, I had just watched an HBO series about the making of The Sopranos, and one of the things that John Gandolfini would do to get into the mood to play this horrible person, he would deprive himself of sleep, right? So he was already grumpy, right? And then often when he got into a car, he would smash the car. Like he would smash the steering wheel and whatever to get himself raged up, right? And Michael Gandolfini does the same thing in this scene, right? When Buck goes into the hardware store, because I think he starts the car thinking like I should just go, right?
Yeah, because it seems like he's going to get murdered.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Is like Buck's being very sort of like not nondescript and just sort of we've been told to go here and do this, right? And it wasn't until they actually get there that he realizes that when Buck opens the trunk that the choice is shovel or saw, because they've got the informant or the first mate of the ship that Buck killed the week before in the back of the car, and they're going to dispose of the body, I guess, right? Or at least that's implied. So I don't know about you, but I would have taken the shovel.
I think shovel is way better. Like, yes, it's more work, but like. You take off a jacket, you roll up some sleeves, you're going to scuff your shoes, but you're not going to have to like bleach and or burn whatever clothing you were wearing.
Yeah, or try not to throw up every time you're doing something, yeah. Yeah, so it was a good episode. I mean, there was lots of like, I guess pew-pew in the sense that there was a lot of tussles and fighting and, hiding and skullduggery and whatever, right? So, and the whole sort of, a lot of talking in this one because there was a lot of justification of the stories, right?
Yeah, and the painting that we should point out that Vanessa wanted to have out there in the gallery that her boss didn't want was this basically like white spackle painting that she felt like would somebody will see it and see their own emptiness in it, and it seems like that's what Fisk sees there. I feel like that represents the like emptiness he's going to have without his wife. Like the governor was like, okay, I'll deal with Mr. and Mrs. Fisk. Like, okay, I can't deal with this guy, but if you're there to sort of keep him on a leash, fine. And now he's not only not on a leash, but probably like in a super bad mood, just to put it lightly.
Yeah. It's funny, ironically, so I went to York University in the late 70s, early 80s. And there's a professor there named Ron Moore, who is a famous Canadian painter, and his thing was white on white paintings. So as soon as I saw that, I was just like, oh, look, it's a Ron Moore. But it wasn't a Ron Moore, but same sort of idea that it's more about the application of the paint and depth and texture than it is about, like representing something, right? Although, like in this case, you said representing his empty soul or whatever.
Yeah, and to be really clear, they do show us from an angle, like, and the lighting is excellent. Like, it's not literally just flat white paint. I use spackle because I'm like, there's definitely depth and texture, and the right lighting makes it more dramatic. So it's not like, oh, look, here's a white piece of paper that represents a polar bear in a snowstorm, and he happens to be blinking at the exact moment that this is taking place. You know, it's not that.
Yeah, true. Yeah, the blinking is important. Anyway, so yeah, I think we're one more episode till the end of the season, right?
According to Wikipedia, this was episode 5. There are 3 more. It looks like
3 more.
Requiem on April 21st, The Hateful Darkness on April 28th, and The Southern Cross on May 5th. Now, I also felt like we were nearing towards the end. I was like, oh, it must be 6 episodes. Like, no, apparently it's 8.
Yeah, and spoilers for next week at Requiem. The shot on IMDb has Ritter in the picture, right? So Jessica Jones will be back.
I was wondering, I'm like, man, we're getting deep into this season. She must show up as like the final scene. It's what I was expecting. It sounds like, no, we'll get her a little earlier.
Yeah, they have a picture of her. I wonder if she's even credited in the show yet. Let's see. No, she's not even listed in the show. Interesting, but she's the obviously the hero image. So she's next week. Well, and at the end of the episode, Matt shows up carrying Bullseye and meeting Karen at that's the Punisher's lair, right? Where they're hiding out.
Yeah, I think it is. I think that's what they were using as their base of operations.
Yeah, so he's obviously off doing another movie, but
yeah, exactly. He's in that. What did we say it was? One Last Punishment. I know that's not the actual title, but like you know what I mean, right?
Cool. Let's move on to Invincible. This is season 4, episode 7. Don't do anything rash, and this is the big sort of showdown between the Viltrumites and the character that Lee Pace plays. Let me just get the names here.
Yeah, Grand Regent Thrag.
Thrag, yeah, and so our buddies, the gang of 7 or whatever they're called, are going to take on the Viltrumites at the planet, right? And there's a bit of backstory too, because I guess the character that's sort of broken away from the council. Again, I don't know his name.
Thetis, or Optimus Prime, as I called him, because he's voice acted by Peter Cullen, who did Optimus Prime in the Transformers series.
Yeah, and I did catch the Michael Dorn as Battle Beast. I see what you mean, right? Oh, look at that! Zoe Deutsch plays Zoe. How about that? And Space Racer and all that kind of stuff. And Space Racer has that big giant gun too, which comes in important in this one. So it's all kinds of like typical Invincible bash and smash and tear people apart kind of show, because I think it kind of does a backstory with what did you say his name was?
Thetis,
yeah, where they basically the Emperor gets killed or dies or whatever, and gets killed by Thaddeus, I guess, right? And they decide that basically battle amongst yourselves so the strongest will survive, and they get down to like 40 people, I think, or 40 Viltrumites left or less, right? Because they just everybody attacks everybody else, and including kids, right?
Yeah, the battle, and also Thetis came up with that virus that made things worse.
Oh yeah, I guess that's where they put all the bodies, right? Those piles of bodies that they had, they turned them into like a ring of Saturn around the planet.
Mm-hmm. As a like tomb to always remember what had happened. Yeah.
So as our gang, our good gang, Seth Rogen and Battle Beast and Space Racer and not Glenn, Mark and Nolan and Oliver are kind of racing, and Zoe, I think, are racing towards this final battle with what's his name again? Thaddeus? Thrag. Yeah. So Thrag and his gang of Viltrumites, and yeah, it's Oliver gets battle damaged and Nolan gets battle damaged, but at one point they finally decide, their big play, I guess, I don't know if they discussed it or not, but it was to have Battle Beast fire his super duper gun at the planet, and then
Space Racer fire his gun.
Space Racer, and then so Nolan and Mark and who's the third? Is that
Thetis?
Or the 3 of them follow the bullet, as it were, and they basically destroy the planet. They fly through the core of the planet and have it, break apart. I was thinking like that planet Praxis that they blow up on in Star Trek.
Yeah, the moon of Kronos. I think it was a moon of Kronos.
The moon.
It's definitely a moon. Yeah.
But basically they just end up just like doing was it Dantooine what they blow up with the Death Star? They just crumble the planet, right?
It was Alderaan, because Dantooine was what was suggested by Leia, and Tarkin said, no, that's far too remote. We need something, not on the outer edges. We need something more notable to send a message.
Even though he promised he wouldn't damage the planet. Yeah, so it's kind of like one of these, and then once they do that, Thrag realizes what they've lost, sort of thing, right? So I guess they'll meet again another day, or maybe 2 episodes from now or something. This is the one that we're down to 1 episode left, right?
Yes, the next one is the season finale, Don't Leave Me Hanging Here.
Yeah.
But yeah, Thrag is just like impressive. I mean, he disembowels Nolan. He's clearly a better fighter than Nolan. And they do specify that he's been trained since like birth to be the ultimate Viltrumite. He rips off the arm and I think jaw of Oliver, who tried to take him on. Mark, to use a video game term, like he just tanks Mark's punch right on his forehead. It's like just nothing. It clearly hurts Mark, even though it was a rage punch. He couldn't do anything. And he clearly was going to lose to Thrag until Thrag realized, like, no, I can't destroy even more now that we have even less about their homeland and stuff. So they're licking their wounds, but Mark does realize they've gone to Earth as
at the
revenge to be like, hey, I guess this is new Viltrum, just make the new planet. Especially because, it would make sense given that even though Thrag couldn't be defeated by Invincible, Invincible, did kill Conquest, and we know that part of Nolan's job was like mating with the locals to figure out, do they create superpowered, better hybrids? And I think
if they mate with them,
yeah. So Viltrumites with humans create pretty good ones. I mean, even though Invincible couldn't win, it's like, hey, that's not half bad. Like maybe this is a way we can repopulate with the locals.
Yeah, it's one funny thing, and Jonathan could probably fact check this for us as well. But there was, because he's read all the books. But at one point, the Emperor or somebody says, the Regent Thrag says, I'll become Regent until we can find an ancestor of the Emperor that should, who should be next in line, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, his descendant.
And I kind of wondered, is like Oliver that person?
If it was Oliver, that would mean that Nolan would be the heir, right? Because Nolan is the father.
What about the mother? Like, who's the mother of Oliver?
That was the blue bug lady when Nolan.
Oh, that's why he was blue when he was, or that's why he's got funny colored skin.
Yeah, if you remember, after Omni-Man defeats Mark in season 1 and then decides to take off, he was, going to end himself at a black hole and then decided to go to a different planet or something. I forget the details. But he ends up on that planet with all the bug people who live very fast, accelerated lives. And so he very sort of quickly ends up with the queen, bug lady, and they have a baby, which is Oliver. And the queen wants Mark to take Oliver with him because she says, hey, yes, he ages very fast compared to humans, but he ages very slow for her people. So she will die before he ever remembers her, right? Before he even gets old enough to remember her. So she, donates sort of her son to Debbie Grayson. I don't think she knows Debbie Grayson, but that's who he thinks of as his mom that he grew up with. But yeah, maybe that's a plan there. Like, given that you can create pretty strong hybrids with the bug people, if they had thought about this plan, they would have had as many Viltrumite people as Thetis and Mark and Nolan just go and just breed with as many of them, wait it out like a year or two or however old Oliver is in human years, and then just go with this crazy massive army to go beat up the Viltrumites.
Yeah, well, I don't know that. Yeah, again, I don't know that they're more interested in fighting than procreating, right? It seems.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So another good. It was a good episode. So interesting though. For my pick, I have a Brian Eno soundtrack, and what's interesting about this is, and I've listened to this particular album. It's called Apollo Atmospheres and something else, but and it's a soundtrack that was created for the movie For All Mankind, which, as you know, is a pet peeve of mine. The name of that show, the other show on Apple TV, but the scene where Mark and Nolan are like they've been defeated and Thrag is taken off, and you see them just kind of floating through space, right? That song that's playing in the background is the first track on this particular album, and it's called Under Stars. And it's used in, like I said, it's used in a sort of another interesting scene inside of the Apollo movie, or the For All Mankind movie, which is sort of part of their journey to the moon, right, kind of thing. So it's kind of a neat thing. Like, as soon as I hear that song, I'm like, it's kind of like, it's synthesizer music or atmospheric music, but it's kind of like I've heard it so many times in my life that as soon as I hear it, I go, oh, I know exactly what that is. So it was interesting to see that they didn't put it in credits. I did read the credits, but I didn't see the soundtrack mentioned there. And I've got a link here to the Apple Music track. So if you're curious about that, you can go check that out.
Now, a word from our sponsor. Now, back to the show.
Cool. All right. Ready for some Maul, some Star Wars Maul with Shadow Lord?
Yeah, a couple episodes of that.
Yeah, so again, like Jonathan mentioned last week, they're dropping 2 episodes at a time this time. So we got season 1, episode 3, Whispers in the Unknown, and very strange sort of like titles. And then the second one, season 4, and they're actually called chapter 3 and chapter 4, I should say. This one, the 4, is the Pride and Vengeance. So it's kind of like Whispers in the Dark, I think, is a title from Lord of the Rings, and Pride and Prejudice, obviously, would be what I would think there, but they're kind of playing with the names anyway. So, off we go into these 2 episodes. Do you want to do can you do a synopsis?
Synopses, maybe, is how that is. I don't know what the plural of synopsis is. Synopsi, like fungi, perhaps?
Yeah.
Octopi. So we know that Maul had captured Devon, is the name of the Twi'lek, right? The apprentice of the I forget what the lizard Jedi guy name is, kind of like an iguana dude. So she was captured. She escapes using the Force, given Darth Maul's direction, his hint of like, here's how you get out.
Master Iko Diodaki. The Master Daki, I guess. Master Iko Diodaki.
Daki and Devon. Okay, got it. And Maul has a little sit down, a little tea offering, and Devon is like intensely smart. I'm like cheering when I'm like, yes, his weapon is there. Obviously it's a trap, but like, take his weapon. And then she doesn't like try to fight him. She like runs away. He's like, what are you doing? She's like, dude, I'm not dumb. I know who you are. I know you're dangerous. I'm giving myself the best chances of getting out of here, rather than trying to like, I will, defeat the Sith, and end your revenge. She's like, nope, just get out of here, get to my master. This is a bad situation. I was pretty happy with that, as Maul is like, questioning the Jedi Order for her, and then relating that, I think in this episode, to the way that the Sith and the Emperor tossed him aside, right? And why he's his own person now. Meantime, you got Pablo Escobar. I forget, was it Wagner or something or other from Narcos? The cop guy, Lawson, I think is his name.
Yeah, Brander Lawson.
Lawson, right?
Wagner Moro, yeah.
He just wants to go see his son's, I don't know, kind of look like lacrosse. Kind of look like a cross kind of thing. He just wants to see that, but he's approached by Daki, who says like, "Oh, I'm like, her uncle," which is clearly like a bad lie, right? And Two Boots is also causing some issues here, because the robot is like, "Hey, we really should be calling the Empire. This is getting way out of control. We can't handle this. That's what the protocols say. And that's like a theme for these two. But in this episode, you have the fight between the two gangs, right, over the shipment that gets ambushed by Maul and his followers. You've got Lawson having to leave his match early, that his son was wanting to see, because Two Boots tells him that, hey, this thing's going on. We got to deal with this. And Two Boots even goes above his head to, I don't know, like Lawson's boss, I guess.
Yeah, Chief Kleiss. Yeah, the chief lady. Yep. Yeah.
And so that's not good. He's like really upset. And I think the episode ends with Devin like trying to escape, and then Maul does reveal himself, and they fight, and he gets his lightsaber back, as she departs. So that's even
and was this the episode where the chief sort of disables or puts Two Boots on desk duty or something like that?
Yes, I think that is this episode where they're like, "Hey, I can't really trust you on the field, so you're on desk duty, bro."
Yeah, and then in the next episode they go off and they have a showdown with Maul's people, right?
Yeah. So they have Vario, I think, is the hostage that they have. That they use him to meet one of the other mob bosses. And there's a little bit of subterfuge where they make it seem like it's Maul who is carving his way through. Gets stun blasted by Vario, and then when they reveal who it is, it's one of the other guys. I don't know their names. They're the same species as Maul. They're like the Mauler twins from Invincible.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the subterfuge.
Yeah. And so Maul ends up killing that leader and says, "Hey, you, Captain of the Guard, you're the new leader, but you report to me now. You're basically my puppet. You're my stooge." Building his little criminal empire there.
Yeah, the Pikes are called, right?
Were these ones the Pikes? Yeah, you're right. The Pikes do wear the little helmets because we've seen them in Book of Boba Fett and stuff, right? Thankfully, Devin and Daki reunite, right? And they're like, "Hey, we got to help Lawson defeat Maul because he's just not going to be able to handle a Sith."
And then they realize that like Maul appears by hologram talking to the Lawson character, right? And I think there was something about or maybe I think that Daki and Devin go and try to fight Maul, right? Together.
They do during all of that crazy shootout and stuff that was going on when the cops show up, and they're Maul's like, "Hey, you definitely don't want to call the Empire because we both know that's a bad thing, but I'll do Yakuza style. We're like, yes, I'm committing crimes, but it's like organized and relatively friendly. Just don't go in the dark alley sort of thing, right? We sort of keep the rowdiness to a minimum, and Lawson can't accept that, and that's where I think the firefight breaks out, and the pew pew pews, and the Jedi end up dueling Maul, who Maul does get injured in one of his cybernetic legs, right? Like
he kind of gets a
knee or shin or something gets injured.
Yeah, because he's kind of limping out as he's leaving at the end of the episode.
Yeah. Lawson does find the Jedi and realizing that they are in fact Jedi, and he's like, "Hey, y'all get out of here. This is not good. Like, you all are illegal too, right? Because we're under the Empire and Order 66 now." Two Boots, I think, was deactivated for calling the.
He was going to call them. So
he's going to call, and then he actually does call them.
Lawson put him in a room and deactivated him, right?
Right. And we've got the Imperial Star Destroyer arriving over the planet. So it's
at the very end, because Two Boots does end up calling the Empire. Yeah, and we have the first scene from not quite as good as the first as A New Hope, but with the Imperial Destroyer appearing above our heads, right?
Yeah, it was very shocking when it happened in 1977. So very hard to outdo that.
Yeah, for sure, it was a great effect. But now that the Empire is here, it's going to be lots of fun and games next week, right?
Yeah. I think this series is pretty good. We've talked about things like Andor, Rogue One, The Mandalorian as like getting further away from Jedi, Sith, and from the Skywalker family in particular. And this one, although it does have Jedi and Sith, it's showing that there are people who, former Jedi, former Sith, Empire as like another faction, and then just sort of regular people, regular criminals like the Pikes, regular police like Lawson, So I'm really sort of excited to see the expansion of the universe. So we see more than just sort of the elites. We're seeing kind of more everyday, regular people involved.
All right, and the last show we got to cover today is The Boys. Now, I don't know how I can say this without getting an explicit label on our show. So we'll just say the episode is Season 5, Episode 3. Sorry, yeah, Season 5, Episode 3, Every One of You Sons of B Words.
There we go. Bees.
So you can fill in the B word.
You sons of beekeepers.
Female dogs. You sons of female dogs. So this was interesting. So last week we saw that at the very end of it, they try the virus on what's the Universal Soldier guy's name?
You're talking about Soldier Boy?
Soldier Boy, thank you. Who is, and actually in this episode too, it's kind of revealed to the public Homelander reveals to the public that Soldier Boy is actually his father, which Soldier Boy is not too pleased about. But it turns out that Soldier Boy is one of the first iterations of V, so he's a V1V person, and the V virus or the V molecule or whatever is not susceptible to the virus, which is why Soldier Boy survives. And so he's got something in his blood, or his version of V, and somebody draws like a COVID kind of diagram with a circle with like spikes coming out of it, and the virus has spikes, and so the two spikes kind of join together, and that's how they're able to infect anybody that's a soup. But it turns out that because the shape of the V1 doesn't have any spikes, the virus has nothing to hold on to. So that's how Soldier Boy survived last week. And so now the quest is on to try and find Vought apparently destroyed all the records and the recipes and things and all the samples of the original V because it didn't work all that well. Only a few people survived. One of which, I think 4 or 5 people survived, and one of which was Soldier Boy. So now the quest is to try and find this redacted. It's funny how everything parallels. The current administration, let's call it that way. The redacted evidence and like, how do they come up with this stuff? It's so quick.
Like a year to a year and a half ago. Right?
I know,
because they had to write it, they had to film it, they had to do post production. They Nostradamus.
Yeah, you substitute breast milk with cheeseburgers, and you've got the same story, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress. But of course now the evildoers, the soups, have to go and find. So he sends Fish Boy, what's his name?
The Deep, Black Noir,
and Black Noir sends them on a mission to go and find the Giancarlo Esposito character because he would
Edgar, I think is his name. I keep wanting to call him Gus.
He was the director of Vought back in the day, right? So they figure he might know about this stuff, right? So they go off on a mission to try and find him, but so does our heroes, right? Not Butcher, but Huey and
Starlight
Annie and go to find him and go to his bunker kind of thing, and he takes them down underground. And Mother's Milk says, pretty much, I'm going to kill you, but in the meantime, let's work together to get rid of Homelander. So they go down into the bunker, and they run into his his granddaughter.
Right, his granddaughter, because the daughter, Victoria, something like that, was the congressperson. I forget. She was like in government, and she was secretly a soup, and she gets killed by Butcher in front of her daughter. The daughter has the like tendrils, the tentacles that come out of her mouth.
Her name's not Firecracker, is it?
Firecracker is the fan of Homelander. She's the redhead.
The
She's got like the southern twang in her voice.
Yeah. So this episode was called. Oh wait, I'm in the wrong season. Hang on one sec. Season 5, episode 3. Every one of you sons of dogma. Her name is. I love the part. I forget what Soldier Boy calls Sister Sledge. But he calls her. Cleopatra Jones. I think he calls her at one point.
Yeah. He's got great quips, especially because he's like very much like the racist, sexist, very ist version of like Captain America, you know. And he's got some good ones for sure.
Anyway, I can't find him anyway. But anyway, so they're doing this, and they kind of converge together. He gets the Deep brings a couple of I don't know if we've seen these guys before, but I think the one we'd seen before was the one that can bend metal.
Right, the like psychic lady. She's like bald, shaven head, and then they bring some dude who's like Wolverine, but only his tracking senses, only his sense of smell. It doesn't have any adamantium or anything.
Wasn't he from? I think he was in that show with William H. Macy and the guy who plays Flip from what's the name of that show? It was on for like a bunch of years, and Jeremy Allen White, filmed in Chicago.
Are you talking about The Bear?
No, earlier than that.
Oh, that other show. Oh, yeah.
Because the dreadlock looking dude was in that show. He was Susan Sarandon's partner at one point in the early seasons, anyway. But yeah, I just saw him. That's the only thing I've ever seen him in before, and I'm like, it's the dude, kind of thing. Anyway, but so he comes along too, and he can. So Huey's also dealing, and sort of the Maverick is this name of this character who is one of the kids from Godolphin School, right? From Gen V. He's the Invisible Kid, right? And his Maverick. Father was killed by Huey in the last season, I think, right? And but somebody has told him that Homelander killed his father, right? So he's got this whole I hate Homelander kind of thing, and Huey's kind of doing this redemption thing with him. You got to, maybe you should deal with forgiveness and letting go and all that kind of stuff. And he pulls him aside and says, just stop. Like you're not making this any better, right? Kind of thing. Because everybody knows that Huey killed the father, not Homelander, right? And it does get revealed to the young Maverick that Huey did in fact kill his father, and so he goes after Huey now, right? And there's a whole battle with Huey with a golf club and an invisible opponent, right? And then I think who? Oh, and then the psychic woman comes in and blows up Maverick, and Huey's fallen down behind the bed, and Annie sees this, and she thinks that the only person she saw in the room was Huey, right? So she thinks Huey was blown up by this guy, and she just like starts sobbing. At which point he comes out and because Annie takes care of the psychic woman, but he comes out and sort of says, "Hey, I'm fine," and whatever. And but it's too much for Annie. She's like, I can't anymore, and she kind of takes off, right? Which is interesting. But in the meantime, we also have the side story with Homelander trying to get his dad, as love and adoration. And at one point he goes into his private room and he has a vision of with the Elizabeth Shue character comes back in his brain. Madeline Stillwell, I think, is the name of the character name, and she in his mind tells him that he's like a god and this is all foretold and you'll rise up and whatever. I forget what she tells him, but he's totally convinced now that an angel told him, that he'd be in the top of the game, right, sort of thing. And so he's walking around with a big giant smile on his face. At one point, he's lying in a bathtub full of breast milk, right? When Soldier Boy comes by and keeps telling him you're pathetic and all that kind of stuff, and then because now Homelander's been convinced by his vision that he's the chosen one or whatever, he tells his father that he's pathetic, right? And in another side plot, Butcher goes and we find out that the granddaughter has been texting with Ryan, right, the son from Homelander's kid, right, who's not been in the show much this year, right? He was raised by Butcher's girlfriend, who was, I guess they claim that Homelander raped her to create the boy, right? And he's got similar powers to. He's kind of like Oliver to Nolan. He's got similar powers. He can do the laser eyes and all that kind of stuff, and he's super strong. So Butcher convinces him. He has a beer with him, and he convinces him that the only way to solve the problem of Homelander is to take the virus and give it to Homelander, right? And of course, I think this is before they discovered that about the V1, right? And he says it has to happen today because before Homelander gets a hold of V1 and discovers how to cure himself or to make himself impervious to the virus, right? You have to deliver this today. And he says the only thing about it is you're going to die too, right? And he says the world without soups is the only way to save the world, kind of thing, right? And finally Ryan agrees, okay, I'll do it. And then for some reason I forget why, but because the daughter ends up she follows them in the van because Frenchie and Kimiko are going back to the place where the V's or the virus is being made, and her father obviously is the chemist, right? And she was told that he had been killed, so they meet, and then he decides to destroy all the virus that he's been making, right, by pouring bleach on it. And so now so Butcher has realized now that he's got no virus, right?
Right.
And so he tells Ryan it's not going to happen today. We'll have to come up with something else. And Ryan goes off to meet with Homelander. He calls him, and they have a bit of a showdown. And they, like Oliver and Nolan, they kind of fight for a bit, and then Homelander gets the upper hand and just starts pounding on young Ryan, right, to the point where he's like a pulp, beats him to a pulp, right. And at one point he even stops him, but then continues, right, because he's just that kind of evil person. But and at the very end of the episode, Butcher finds Ryan, and Ryan's you think Ryan's again like Vanessa done, but Butcher finds him, and just the very last frame of the show, Ryan moves, right? Did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it, because it definitely paralleled in my mind the fight between Nolan and Invincible, but Homelander didn't have the love for his son, epiphany that Nolan has, right? So you just you see him stop, hesitate, and then more punches.
Yeah. Just when you think he's going to stop and realize what he's doing, right? So
yeah, but it definitely was think, Mark, what will you have in 500 years? I'll have you, Dad. I'll have you.
Yeah. It was interesting to see the actor Cameron Crovetti larger now, I guess, because we've had that many years off since the show's been on, right? So
that is the challenge with the youngins. If you're doing 2 years between seasons, you're going to have them grow real fast.
Yeah, so it was an interesting episode. I mean, typical mayhem of the boys, and Soldier Boy, as an act of revenge, takes on Firecracker, right? And they go at it. Metaphorically, and at the end of it, he's like, surely you and Homelander, and she says, nope, never, not once, kind of thing. That's an interesting parallel or interesting relationship there.
And Kimiko, throughout the episode, now that she speaks and she describes pornographic acts very casually and very much matter of factly.
Yeah. And at one point, Huey says, maybe lay off the porn. And she goes, no. Yeah, there was a couple of good what they said things that we probably should have rewound and got, but yeah, there were some choice phrasings in this one. The one thing we didn't talk about was the puppet 7, right? They have sort of Muppets that look like Homelander and Firecracker, and I don't know if it was Soldier Boy, but yeah. Oh, the Deep. They have a puppet of the Deep, right?
It's like a Sesame Street kind of show for kids of hey kids, let's have definitely not Hitler's youth. Let's have Homelander's kids or Homelander's youth or something like that, right? You'd go to camp and learn how to do normal camp things, and also how to find those dirty starlighters and suss them out. Yeah. Lots happened, feels like, even though that was only episode 3. We still have 5 more to go.
I know. And then the other thing we didn't talk about was sort of the backstory behind the spin they do for Soldier Boy to justify the fact that he went to Russia, right? was how he was working as an American spy to infiltrate Russia, and they show a picture of him shaking hands with Putin and hanging out with all the bad Russian people, and how he was really just doing that as a sort of subterfuge, right? To try and spin the fact that why is he so cool now all of a sudden, right?
Yeah. Why did they deal with him before? Why is he part of the Seven now? Yeah.
Again, how are they paralleling today's political climate in this show that was written 2 years ago?
I'm telling you, there's clairvoyance. I don't know why they only have this ability and why they haven't, made bets on the lottery or Polymarket or something, like why they haven't found the Spanish doubloons or something. Like, no, this is their curse is only to see the political future.
Yeah. There is one more thing I want to talk about, and we don't usually get into politics here, but I don't know if you saw that yesterday Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon gave a speech, and he asked everybody to join him in a prayer. And it was Ezekiel something, and he literally, word for word, with a few paraphrasings, mimicked the Samuel L. Jackson speech from Pulp Fiction. And I will rain down upon you with the fury of God and all that kind of stuff. Right? That whole speech, he did that, thinking that he was quoting from the Bible, when in fact he was quoting from a fictitious, what do you call it when you memorize things from the Bible, but the thing in Pulp Fiction is not from the Bible. So I don't know if you saw that today on the news.
Yeah, that's a weird crossover into movie territory.
Yeah, it's like when life imitates fiction.
For sure.
Anyway, that's crazy. All right, well, and that's where we're just shaking our heads at this boys show, because it's so prescient. I don't get it. Like, what are they going in at the last minute and doing these last minute post changes kind of thing? I don't know. Really creepy. Alrighty. Yeah, so we'll move on to our watch list. What do you think?
Sure.
All right. So I got a couple things here. One is I was watching a fascinating. This is on Adam Savage's Tested. I don't have a link I'll have a link in the show notes for people. But it was he went to an IMAX headquarters to see how IMAX film is projected, and he goes through the whole thing of like looking at the size of the platens, like, and the platen weighs like 600 pounds, and it's only like 30 minutes of film, and how they find like, a piece of film, and they still use cuts to slice the film together. And then he shows how they load it into projector, and the projector's like 2 stories tall. So they load up the spool, and then they run it up 2 stories into the projectors and then back down again onto the take-up reel. So really kind of interesting sort of look at how they do that. And they talk about how they do they have the analog ones, which is like the 70 millimeter IMAX, which is film, versus the digital ones where they have digital projectors for the other types of IMAX film, right? And then what they said was interesting was for 3D IMAX, they actually have 2 reels. They have a right eye reel and a left eye reel. So they use 2 projectors at the same time to do the left and right. And of course, they're all synced and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like a piece of film that has 2 images on it. It's like one piece of film with one projector for the left eye, one for the right eye. Really kind of cool thing. I don't know if you've ever seen a IMAX up close yourself, Jaime?
Up close? No, I mean, certainly in the theaters, but I've not, done more than that.
Yeah, so we have a place called Ontario Science Center here, which our current we could probably call him governor because that's how he acts, but premier is what we call the provincial guys. He's closing it down, but in that particular space, they have an IMAX projector, but it's open. You can it's behind glass, so you can see how the film was loaded and how it goes up the 2 stories. And now I know why, because kind of wondered how they why it has to be so big, and I mean I know why it has to be so big because they're using so much more film, right? Actual physical material, right? So it's kind of cool, and I'll have a link in the show notes to that YouTube video. And then my other pick too was related to the For All Mankind movie. I was actually talking with Tammy Coron, who watched the Artemis 2 flight and circling the Earth and launch and all that kind of stuff. She's now a believer, Jaime. She's no longer saying allegedly went to the moon. This was it was originally done by Brian Eno and his brother, Roger Eno, and Daniel Lanois, who's from Hamilton, Ontario. And you may know them from, obviously, Brian Eno was in that band from the 80s, 90s, whatever it's called. It'll come back to me in a minute. But he also did a whole lot of solo work and stuff like that. And so he was asked by Al Reinhardt, who did the film For All Mankind, to do the soundtrack. And so the Apollo soundtrack and ambience album was done for that. And so this is a making of that music and working. And so it's got, bits of Brian Eno talking about it, and Roger Eno and Daniel Lanois. And because they did like a sort of a reissue recently, they showed how they recorded, and they showed all the old analog equipment that they used to do this kind of stuff. So again, one of my favorite soundtracks. And I mean, you've probably heard this music in all kinds of stuff that you've seen, sci-fi movies, documentaries and all kind of stuff over the years. So I've got a link here to the show notes for that. It's like a 10-minute, maybe 15-minute interview. So it's really good stuff. And then we'll throw over to Jaime for his pick or his watch list item.
Yeah, this is Exit 8, which people might say, wait, that's not new. And you're kind of right, depending where you're at. If you were in Japan, this released in 2025, I think late, like December or something, thereabouts. But it just opened up this month in at least the United States. I didn't check about Canada. It's a breezy hour-and-a-half movie that is a like horror, tension, thriller kind of one. So very similar, I think, in many respects to Iron Lung, the Markiplier movie I talked about with you guys, an indie film that done on a really low budget and was based on a video game. Exit 8 is also based on a video game. Both are indie. The basic concept is this guy is trapped in this endless subway passageway. He's trying to get off the train and get on to out through Exit 8. But he's kind of in like a Twilight Zone sort of thing where like the rules are very simple. Don't miss anything as you go through like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 8. And if you make a mistake and don't notice an issue, then you get sent back to the beginning, right? And you lose all your progress. The premise is really hard to talk about without revealing how the sort of movie and film works. But it is shot pretty impressively, considering you most of the time look at like the same two hallways the entire movie.
Yeah, I think I saw this a couple of weeks ago, actually, as in maybe an IMDb app on what's coming up soon, right? Yeah.
The movie poster shows like a Mobius strip in the shape of an 8,
right?
Sort of nicely representing the concept of like you can't get out unless you pass through all 8 sort of levels here correctly.
I do have one more thing. What was it? I think I mentioned this last week or the week before, but they did film the launch of the Artemis rocket, the liftoff in 3D, right? And you can watch it now. It's on NASA's channel, and you can watch it on any type of thing. Obviously, I watch it on Vision Pro, but you can watch it on that other system from Meta. What's it called? The Quest, I think. Meta Quest. So that's available to watch in 360. Yeah, so I watched it yesterday. Yeah, it's funny you have to sit on the couch and then watching this rocket lift off, and you're looking straight up. You have to turn your head up to see it go up above you, right? So I have a link in the show notes for that too. All right, so that brings us to the end. So hey, Jaime, what people want to get in touch with you? Where will they find you?
I'm on Instagram as @DevWithAHair.
All right, and my name is Timitra, Timmitra, and I am found on Bluesky and on Mastodon and Threads and Instagram. Yeah, so that's pretty much where you'll find me with that same handle. And so next time, we'll see you in the future. Bye.
You've been listening to the Spotcast podcast. If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spotcast website at spotcast.com. If you have feedback or questions, You can get in touch with us on the website. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/Spotcast. You can find details on how to help us on our website, spotcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
Going on we can talk about in the afternoon?
I know you made it
recording.
Oh, I was going to say, you made it a pick a week or two ago, but are you keeping up with Monarch Legacy of Monsters?
Oh, yeah, I am. I think I watched the last episode. It's getting kind of timeliney, right? Like there's one of the main characters has now passed away. There's one that's not shown up in the modern time, like, as you know how it's the telling of the years ago and into the future. I don't want to give too much away in case people do want to watch it, but there are characters who go into the other realm and come back out. And there's one sort of really strange episode this week where Kurt Russell, as the character, is talking to himself on a radio through the rift, like he's talking to himself in the other world from 20, 30 years ago, sort of thing. So a very sort of strange episode. But I kind of wondered if he was going to go rescue him, and then the two of them would, so the Wyatt Russell and Kurt Russell could be in scenes together, kind of thing, right? Very, very strange. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's sometimes a bit tiring, and I'm watching my dog walk around and step on my Apple remote and stuff, hoping she's not going to turn the TV on. And you're wet. Why are you wet? Because it's raining outside, isn't it, you idiot dog? Not that she's an idiot dog. She just likes to go outside in the rain.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And soak her toys.